Hi people and hello my Chili Con Carnage crew, Chili here from Live Listen Erased. I'm bringing you a special episode of Live Listen Erased. Of course it's based around Saint Anger by Metallica, and in regards to, I guess, is it as bad as I remember? Because I made a short video only recently, and as many people pointed out, and this all started due to a short video I made in regards to would you erase this album or listen to this album of Saint Anger, and to my surprise, a lot of people were actually in support of this record. I thought that this was going to be a surefire one that would just be people going, no, get rid of it, erase it, don't want to hear it. So it made me kind of reflect myself and go, well, maybe I'm getting this wrong and it's not as bad as I remember. Maybe it's time that I go back, take a look, and listen to this record and, I guess, make this whole video in regards to it. I mean, looking over this album, even the band themselves have started playing songs from this in a live setting. So have we come to cross that bridge where it's no longer as bad as we remember? You know, is it kind of like Star Wars, you know, how everyone was saying, the prequels are shithouse. And then, of course, then we ended up making newer sequels that were even worse. And now we look at it going, you know what? The prequels weren't that bad. You know, Metallica has released some albums since Saint Anger, and it depends on how you sit in the fence for some of those records. I know where I stand on them. But, you know, is Saint Anger as bad as we really remember it? You know, because Saint Anger is metal's punching bag. It's like this full-on meme source in regards to it. There's just so much out there. You can go Saint Anger memes and there's pages upon pages of that. And a lot of part of that, of course, is due to the record and its inexcusable, you know, drumming quality of that. And that's one part I just want to say straight away. I'm not defending the drumming quality. That's one thing. But of course, Metallica is like one of the biggest metal bands out there, so they get this massive target just painted on them for anything that they're going to do. So is this album as bad as everyone says, or is this actually a hidden gem in the Metallica, you know, catalogue? So yes, the drums sound terrible. There is no excuse for this record. Bob Rock was the producer in regards to this record, and he'd done plenty of their albums, but for some reason, I don't know why, the drums are just horrific. We're going to go on to that a bit more later on, but you know, there's something about that. And I'm sure there's some album out there on YouTube where they fix the drums and put it back up there. You know, it's been done. For example, if you're looking over And Justice for All and the no bass mix with the And Justice for Jason remix, there's the bass lines. You know, I'm sure Saint Anger has the fixed snare issue and it'll be up there. But you know what? There's just no way to hide the drumming sound. It's fucking horrific. But this aside, you know, the early 2000s saw Metallica changing to a new metal sound. And, you know, when you're going over it, it's not the first time that Metallica has done this. They have changed their sound and evolved for the better part of 15 years beforehand. You know, you had And Justice for All, which was a bit more proggy in their approach. You had the Black Album, which was just simple heavy metal approach, you know, kind of like an AC/DC slog at it. You had Load and Reload with that kind of alt-rock, grunge type of sound. And now Saint Anger with their approach to new metal. And while all of these albums really did go into newer styles, they still did it with their repertoire. They still had the Metallica sound on it. So Metallica has always evolved their sound over the course of the band's history. And Bob Rock would be the 5th time that he produced a record with them. And this was the first album without Jason Newsted, which is a big issue. And you know, when you're going over it, Bob Rock would be doing bass duties for the record. Don't know if Bob Rock's that. He's not really a good bass player, but I kind of got the feeling that he wanted to be in the band, and maybe he, when obviously they wouldn't pick him, he might have sabotaged this record to a degree. Who knows? I don't fully understand. But yes, this is going to be the first record that they would do without Jason Newsted, who had served them for something like 12, 13 years. Extremely good, extremely talented bass player, perfect fit for the band. And the other problem as well is that the bands were at each other's throats around this time, and of course James was going into rehab, and all of this was just seeing Metallica, I guess, in crisis. it was compounded because, they were doing a documentary at the time on the whole thing, and all of the issues that Metallica had were put out to air in regards to this documentary. And at the time, it was great to watch because Metallica is one of my favourite bands, and I always wanted to see more of them. So to be able to go down to the movies and watch this documentary, it was great. Me and my friends went down, we watched it, we loved it. We at the time enjoyed it. So you want to see more and more of them. So Metallica were going to hold bass auditions and find out who would be the replacement. And some of the people that were approached were quite talented musicians. We got Scott Reeder, who was in Caius, The Obsessed, and Unida, or Unida, I'm not sure if I pronounced that wrong. You had Chris Wise from Hollywood Vampires, Danny Lohner from Nine Inch Nails, Twiggy Ramirez from Marilyn Manson, A Perfect Circle, and of course you had Rob Trujillo from Suicidal Tendencies, Ozzy Osbourne as well. There were some really good bass players in the mix. Of course, Rob Trujillo would get the job in the end, and I think he's quite the perfect fit for the band, to be honest. He's an extremely talented bass player, and I know even with interviews in regards to, this whole selection, James Hetfield has said, I didn't think we were actually going to get Rob because he was just so damn good, but they really wanted him in the band. So, props to him. Now, despite the auditions, I guess, the bass, as I mentioned, was handled by Bob Rock on this album, and it's pretty lackluster. So that is one thing to keep in mind in regards to this record. In hindsight, this whole ordeal, it really dented Metallica's image. They had this perfect, impregnable, I guess, image of being the ultimate metal icons. They were just these guys who would tour constantly, get really shit-faced whenever they could. I mean, by the fan standards, they were called Alcoholica, and they were just untouchable, is what I'm saying. So when this whole thing was coming to light, some kind of monster drops, and all of a sudden, the group's in therapy, and they're talking to previous band members like Dave Mustaine, and trust me, back in the day, Megadeth and Metallica fans would butt heads. They still do, but they were really butt heads. And in particular, Dave Mustaine, he hated the band. So for them to be doing all this therapy and stuff, and talking to old band members, and it's great they built the bridge back up. But, it really, really created a dent in their image. So it's the really interesting time during the band's history. So I guess the album was released, and it was very highly anticipated. It would go on to go 6 times platinum. It would sell 6 million copies, I meant to say, and it went 2 times platinum in America. So, talking about the music that is found on this record, the first single was, of course, Saint Anger, and I think this is a fairly decent track. It's very catchy. It's great hooks to it. Nice Metallica song too there, and when you're weighing up the songs that they put out only a couple of years prior. So obviously you had, Load and Reload, which was that whole era. But then they had, keep in mind, Mission Impossible 2. They did a song for the soundtrack with I Disappear. It's a bit of an unknown track, really, going through their history, as well as 2 songs, No Leaf Clover, and I'm forgetting the other one right now, but it's off S&M. Symphony of Metallica, obviously, but yeah, No Leaf Clover was the other song as well. And these 3 songs were, I thought, very strong singles that come out of the Bandcamp there. In particular, I liked I Disappear. I think it's a really good song. So there was a lot of anticipation coming up in regards to this one, and Saint Anger, I thought was a pretty solid track. Their approach on the new metal scene wasn't too bad. It wasn't horrendous, but at the time I loved it. And the video clip is also very memorable. It was filmed in San Quentin State Prison, which is the same site that Johnny Cash performed one of his legendary live performances, of course, with the prison inmates. And, Saint Anger had this awesome video clip to it, and I liked it. I liked that song a lot. It's just this great opener, with the riff. Bum, 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 bum. And, it's like, yeah, we've been away for a while, but with that riff, kind of like, yeah, we're here, everyone. Interestingly enough, the B-sides for Saint Anger would actually have different types of songs depending on which B-side you had, which country you were in, and what time you bought it. So the B-sides for the single would be Ramones covers, of course, all of them, with either Commando, Today Your Love, Tomorrow the World, or Now I Want to Sniff Some Glue, and Cretin Hop, or We're a Happy Family, and it depends on what copy you got. I actually had the Cretin Hop version. I loved the Cretin Hop cover, it was really good. I haven't heard the rest of their covers. There's some good tracks there. Commando's good. Tomorrow the World isn't too bad, and of course, I haven't heard the rest of them, to be honest. As I said, I think this is a solid track from the album. I've always thought that, actually. So, Frantic was the second one, the second single, and that song focuses on James's issues with alcohol and as a symptom, but not the core of his problems. It's an interesting way when you're looking over the lyrics, but can be heard in particular on the line, "My lifestyle determines my death style, and do I have the strength to know how I'll go, and can I find it inside to deal with what I shouldn't know?" And it's powerful lyrics. James is opening himself up, and he's done so, I guess, in the past with a few other ones, but it's usually been hidden with another agenda sometimes in regards to religious imagery, and his parents and that whole saga on various other tracks. I think it was Creeping Death and some other songs there, but this one was a bit more personal, in particular to his rehab and the whole situation that went down on. But that tick 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 tock part has always irked me. I hated that part of the song, tick 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 tock, and I'm like, oh Jesus, shut up. That part of the song sucks. I like the thunderous closer when the drums just boom 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 boom, and I think that was a really fantastic way to close out that song. But at the same time, talking about, I guess, that tick 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 tock part, maybe it was perfect writing if you look at it from a different angle, especially given the song title. It kind of made me feel a bit frantic when listening to that tick 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 tock part. So I don't know, maybe you got to weigh that up and think maybe it was intentional. I'm guessing it might have been, or unintentional, but the effect that it gave itself was still there. Now, there was another single, which was The Unnamed Feeling, but this single was only released in Australia. And I remember this video for it, and it had the members in an empty room that would eventually get smaller and smaller as it cut to various people, I guess, struggling with mental issues. And for me, it was a rather prominent video clip, I guess. A viewer to my short on the Saint Anger album, Whether or Not to Listen or Erase, also mentioned that this song gave them the power to overcome their anxiety, which I think is amazing when you consider all things. This has to be my favourite track off the record. I love this song. I think that The Unnamed Feeling is probably their most well-known hidden track. I do. It's such a hidden gem given their catalogue. So yeah, I absolutely love The Unnamed Feeling. I think it is the highlight of the album. Now, other songs on this record, there was Some Kind of Monster, and that was the last single, and was of course used for the documentary of the same name. This song, I didn't really like it at first. It just, kind of felt a bit dreary, I suppose. But upon revisiting it and listening to it recently when I did, I think it is quite a solid song. It's just maybe a bit too long. It probably could have had 2 minutes cut off it. Cut a verse and a chorus off, because it just keeps going on in regards to Some Kind of Monster, and they keep singing that line over and over again. You're like, maybe one verse and chorus isn't enough, maybe two. It's like a 9-minute song nearly. If you shorten it down to probably 6 minutes, it probably could have been a very awesome track. But anyway, I digress, sorry. Dirty Window was another song that I thought was pretty interesting. The guitar work in that song, it really reminds me of like System of a Down, and that was only upon re-listening to it, I'm going, shit, yeah, that's pretty ominous, I guess, it sounds. It's a very decent song, I thought. Again, solid one. Dirty Window, solid tune on the mix there. Invisible Kid is a track that I'm a bit at odds about. That's probably due to the guitar tone, which I kind of like, but I don't know, the rest of the song itself is just, like, I think Invisible Kid probably has one of the better riffs heard on the album, but it's just such a, the lyrics are a bit mundane. It just feels like, I don't know, not a memorable song. Anyway, but that's how it is. So yeah, it's just a bit too repetitive and generic. Shoot Me Again, average song. The common issue again that is found on a lot of these tracks, it's repetitive in the lyrics and a bit lifeless, in particular on the riffs found on Shoot Me Again. Shoot Me Again is a very repetitive song. Yeah, shoot me again, I ain't dead yet. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, shoot me again, shoot me again, shoot me. Yeah, okay. Sweet Amber I thought was a solid track. It's very ferocious, except for the parts where it slows down, saying how sweet does it get. Ignoring that, it's it's a very it's quite a ferocious and aggressive tune. So I think that is another one that is a hidden gem amongst a hidden gem of an album. Purify, however, just sucks, and it's those vocals. There's nothing about it that is good. Repetitive, the vocals suck. Interestingly, this song contains the lyrics "White Light, White Heat," and that, of course, is a famous song by Lou Reed with Velvet Underground. And of course, Metallica would also go on to work with Lou Reed on his last album ever recorded before his death, and that was Lulu. So that's an interesting little line, I think, because they would have done that on purpose, that lyric with white light, white heat, and of course as an ode to Lou Reed. So yeah, that's an interesting one. But Lulu, damn, that is a shitstorm. That's probably for another episode, because I don't know if Lulu has anything redeeming that, where are you the table? No, fuck no. Anyway, all within my hands. That's a cool track. I don't mind it. That's pretty cool. It reminds me a bit of Corrosion of Conformity in parts as well, and it also has the snare rattle removed, making it a very bearable track on this record. So when you're going over this album, what are the weak tracks? Because to me, comment below and tell me your thoughts on what the weak tracks are. But for me, that's got to be My World, Shoot Me Again, and Purify. Those ones I would skip. But on the other side, what are the best tracks? Of course, I'm going to say Saint Anger, Frantic, All Within My Hands, and The Unnamed Feeling. Now, I might be weighing in here and saying that yes, I love this album actually, and it might be a little bit of a nostalgia high, because obviously when I got into this album, that was the first Metallica release when I was getting into Metallica. So listening to this, I played this album a lot. I played this album on repeat for ages when it first dropped, and I tried even drawing on the album artwork on paper and all that time. But anyway, I played this album a lot is what I'm trying to say, and listening to it again after probably first time in 10 or so years, some of these tracks, 10, 15, maybe 20 years, it kind of felt like a nostalgia boner right there. So, it's still, maybe I'm weighing into that one a bit more, but whatever. This album, I think it's actually alright. I think it's actually a solid album. It doesn't really deserve the hate that it gets amongst the community. It's still got some good tracks, extremely solid riffs on the album, and some hooks there that are just absolutely incredible. Is this their worst one? No, I don't think so. I don't believe that is by any long shot. So, that would be a whole different list. I want to do an episode where I go to talk about Metallica and rank all their albums. Trust me, I'm planning to do that. I want to get Doz on board for that. Hopefully Doz and me can do an episode where we talk about Metallica, rank all their albums. So, keep an eye out on that. But anyway, I don't think it's their worst album. No. So is it as bad as I remember? No, actually it's better than the warped views on what the internet has to say. I think it's actually quite a decent album. So don't listen to what the randoms on the internet have to say. Instead, listen to this random on the internet and play this album again, because I'm the only random that you should be paying attention to. So yeah, that's my thoughts, I guess, on Saint Anger. Was it as bad as I remembered it to be? No, I think it's actually quite endearing. There are certainly some tracks, and I like the fact that Metallica are reworking these songs back into the live settings. perhaps maybe they can, when they're performing them live anyway, also play them with a different style, maybe throw in a guitar solo or something here and try something out, because it might actually pay off in the long run. You know, there are certainly some things about these tracks, like All Within My Hands, which started the whole foundation for Metallica's charity works. There was that Acoustic Works, the Acoustics Live album, All Within My Hands. So, you know, there are certainly some tracks there that I think were pretty solid. And I think even All Within My Hands would be a track that appeared on that. And it's, yeah, like, I mean, the acoustic rendition of that song, amazing. You got to hear that, actually. So, yeah. Is it as bad as I think? No, I think it's actually a really good album, and I'm guessing that people who have stuck around this long would agree as well. So comment and tell me below, people, what are your thoughts on this record? Do you reckon it is terrible? Is it as bad as what you remember? Do you like this album? Maybe go forward and listen to it again and come back to this video and then tell me. Or maybe you want to go and listen to it again to come up to your own conclusion, which I definitely implore you to do. Anyway, thank you for checking out this episode of Live Listen Erase, this little special one. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode, and if so, maybe like it. Subscribe to us if you can. And as always, people, have a great day and stay spicy. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Live Listen Erased. And if you have enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it with all your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our Chili Con Carnage crew so you can get notified for all the future videos that we put out, as we put out videos every Friday. Also, we are on Discord, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter over at Live Listen Erased, so make sure to tune in over there. And don't forget to like this video so that our manager can stay very happy.